You know that quiet minute after you park, before you open the door, when the car is still running, and you're just sitting there with your hands on the wheel? Maybe you're looking at the dashboard because the fuel light came on again, and you're doing that small math in your head. Not the big math, not the life math. Just the little math that keeps the week from wobbling. Then your phone lights up, a reminder, a notification, a polite message that doesn't sound urgent but still tightens something in your chest. Your payment is due soon. And the strange part is, you're not behind. You didn't miss anything. You're a responsible adult. The payment is within budget. You even remember the moment you agreed to it. The number felt fine on the paper. It felt fine when someone said, "That's only a month." But in that parked car silence, the payment doesn't feel like one clean number. It feels like a mood that follows you. It feels like something that's always waiting in the next week. Because what you're reacting to isn't the payment itself. It's the sense that the car is not just sitting in your driveway. It's sitting in the way you make choices, the way you hesitate before saying yes to a dinner, the way you notice every sound it makes, the way you keep a mental list of things that could go wrong. That's the real cost most people don't name out loud. Not because they're careless, because the car industry, and honestly our own brains, teach us to look at the easiest number and call it the answer. The easiest number is the monthly payment. It's reasonable to focus on it. It's the number that repeats. It's the number you can compare to your paycheck. It's the number you can negotiate down by stretching the loan longer, adding a down payment, or trading in something older. And when you're trying to make a responsible choice, can I handle the payment? Sounds like the adult question. It's also the question that hides the most. Here's the common belief, stated plainly. If the payment fits, the car fits. If you can cover the monthly bill, then the car is affordable. If you can still pay rent, buy groceries, and keep the lights on, then you made a sensible move. And if you got a decent interest rate, you can tell yourself you did it the right way. This belief isn't foolish. It's a shortcut that works in a lot of areas of life. Your phone plan is mostly the bill. Your internet is mostly the bill. A gym membership is mostly the bill. Even your rent, as painful as it can be, tends to behave like one dominant number. So we treat a car the same way, a subscription you drive. But a car isn't a subscription. It's a bundle. It's a bundle of costs that arrive on different schedules in different amounts with different emotional weights. Some show up monthly, some show up quarterly, some show up once a year. Some show up only when you're already tired and busy, when you have the least capacity to deal with them. The payment is just the most visible string on the bundle, so it becomes the string we pull. There's also a social layer to this assumption. If the payment is the definition of affordability, then you can buy the feeling of keeping up without having to confront the full trade. A slightly nicer car becomes a controlled decision instead of a larger commitment. And because a payment is negotiable, it makes the purchase feel adjustable. The monthly number moves like a dial. The car starts to feel like something you can tune to your life. But what you're really tuning is not the car. You're tuning your future flexibility. That's the single idea I want to hold in your mind for this whole video. The real cost of owning a car isn't what it takes from your wallet each month. It's what it takes from your ability to stay calm when life gets uneven. Affordability isn't, can I make the payment? Affordability is, can I absorb the full commitment of this car without making the rest of my life brittle? A brittle life can look successful on paper. The bills are paid, the credit score is fine, there's no crisis, but there's no slack either. Everything works as long as nothing goes wrong. And the problem with real life is that nothing goes wrong isn't a stable plan. When you buy a car, you're not only buying transportation, you're setting a new minimum for what your month costs, even on months when you drive less, even on months when you're stressed, even on months when your income dips or your expenses rise. The car raises the floor. So instead of thinking of the payment as the price, think of the car as a structure you're agreeing to live inside. It has walls you can't see at first, insurance requirements, maintenance rhythms, the way tires wear down quietly until one day they don't feel optional, the way small dents turn into real money, the way a single warning light can steal your attention for an entire afternoon. Even if you never once miss a payment, the car can still be expensive in the way that matters most. It can be expensive in attention and expensive in the kinds of choices it quietly removes. To see the mechanism, imagine your monthly life as water in a container. Your income pours in, your regular expenses pour out, food, housing, utilities, maybe family support, maybe medicine, maybe tuition, maybe the simple cost of being an adult. When the container has extra room at the top, small waves don't matter. An unexpected fee, a sick day, a higher electric bill, a friend's wedding, a school expense. It sloshes, but it doesn't spill. A car raises the waterline, not just because of the payment, because of everything the payment brings with it. The payment makes the car possible. The car makes the rest unavoidable. Insurance is a requirement, and it can rise at renewal without asking whether this is a convenient year. Registration and taxes are not monthly, which is exactly why they feel like surprises, even when you knew they existed. Maintenance isn't when you feel like it. It's when the car decides it's time, and it rarely arrives with perfect timing. Then there's fuel, which behaves like a variable cost, but emotionally acts like a tax on your week. When prices rise, you notice. When your commute changes, you notice. When you drive a little more because life got busy, you notice. And even if you're careful, there's always the category that doesn't arrive as a bill: depreciation. Depreciation is the slow slide in what the car is worth while you're living your life. It doesn't send invoices. It doesn't even feel real until the moment you try to sell, trade, or get out. Then it arrives all at once, like a receipt you forgot you signed. That's why the payment can be such a convincing illusion. A payment is clean. Depreciation is messy. A payment is the same every month. Depreciation is the difference between the story you told yourself at purchase and the market's answer later. And the invisible mechanism is that those messy costs don't just cost money. They convert normal life variability into stress. When your fixed obligations are low, variability is tolerable. When your fixed obligations are high, variability becomes threatening. The car increases fixed obligations in obvious ways, but it also increases them in quiet ways. It increases the number of categories you have to keep in your head, not because you're disorganized, but because you have to anticipate. You start listening for new sounds. You start delaying other purchases because something might happen. You start making decisions in the shadow of, what if the car needs something? And once that shadow exists, it spreads. It doesn't stay inside the car category. It touches job decisions. It touches whether you can handle a temporary pay cut for a better long-term role. It touches whether you can take a day off without doing math. It touches whether you can say yes to a family need without resentment. This is the part that tends to surprise people. The cost of a car isn't only the money you spend, it's also the way the car reorganizes your risk. When you have a car payment, an insurance bill, and a fuel budget, you have more must-pay items competing for the same paycheck. If you have other commitments, rent, debt, childcare, those commitments don't politely make space. So the car doesn't just take money. It narrows the safe zone. And when the safe zone gets narrow, you can still live inside it, but you live with your shoulders slightly raised. You live in a posture of constant monitoring. That posture is exhausting. It's why someone can earn more than they used to, drive a nicer car than they used to, and still feel less stable than they expected. Because stability isn't a vibe, it's slack. A car can be a useful tool. It can give you time, access, and safety. For many people, it's not optional, but it's still worth seeing the mechanism clearly. When you judge the car by the payment alone, you're judging the most convenient part and ignoring the part that actually changes your life. The payment tells you what you owe the lender. It doesn't tell you what you owe your future months. So let's ground this in a scenario that feels like a real household, not a spreadsheet fantasy. This is an illustration, not a rule. Imagine someone who brings home about $3,500 a month after taxes and deductions. Not luxury money, not desperation money. Just the kind of income where you can cover basics and still hope for progress. They find a car they like. The payment is $400 a month. They look at their budget and think, I can make that work. That thought is not naive. It's arithmetic. Now add what the payment pulls behind it. Insurance. Let's say $150 a month. Fuel. Let's say $120 a month, because the commute is manageable and they're not doing long road trips. Maintenance and tires. Not because the car is unreliable, but because cars are physical objects. Oil, filters, brake pads, alignments, worn tires. If you smooth it into a monthly number, maybe it's $60 a month. Registration, fees, and small required paperwork costs. It's not every month, but it's real. Smoothed out, maybe $20 a month. Parking, tolls, the occasional car wash you didn't plan on but felt necessary, the small accessories that make the car feel usable in your life. Maybe $40 a month. Just the normal stuff. So that $400 payment is now sitting inside something closer to $790 a month. And that's before the category that people don't like to treat as a monthly cost: repairs and not quite emergencies. Maybe nothing breaks for a while. Then one month you need 2 tires, or the battery dies at the wrong time, or a sensor triggers a warning light and you have to pay just to find out what's happening, or you have a small accident and there's a deductible. If you average those moments over time, You might decide to set aside another 50 a month. Now you're around 840 a month. On a 3,500 take-home, that's almost a quarter of your income flowing toward one object. And notice what's subtle here. You didn't choose to spend 840, you chose the 400, and the rest arrived as part of reality. If you want a reality check from a conservative outside source, AAA's 2025 Your Driving Costs Analysis estimates an overall average cost of about $11,577 per year. To own and operate a new vehicle, roughly $965 a month, and it also estimates average depreciation around $4,334 per year as a loss in value. Those are U.S. averages, built on standardized assumptions. Not a prediction for your exact life, but the order of magnitude matters, because it tells you the payment is rarely the whole story. Now go back to the person in our scenario. They're paying $840 a month in real outflow and preparation. Maybe they're also trying to save $200 a month. Maybe they have a small loan balance. Maybe they're helping a parent. Maybe they're just trying to build a buffer. Here's where the mechanism shows up. If their month is smooth, it's fine. But real months are not smooth. A friend gets married, a work schedule changes, someone in the family needs help, a phone breaks, a medical expense lands. Their hours get cut for 2 weeks. Nothing dramatic. Just normal life. When that happens, the car doesn't adjust. The lender doesn't care that your month got weird. The insurance company doesn't care that you had an unexpected expense. Fuel doesn't care that your budget is tight, because you still have to get where you're going. So you start using coping tools. You delay maintenance, even when you know it can cost more later, because you need the cash today. You let the tires go a little too long. You skip replacing something small until it becomes something bigger. Or you use the credit card. And the credit card isn't evil, it's a bridge. But bridges are supposed to lead somewhere. When the car has raised your fixed floor, the bridge starts to connect one normal month to the next normal month, and the balance doesn't fully reset. When you carry a big, fixed commitment, your brain becomes a risk manager. You don't only think in dollars, you think in threats. You start scanning your weeks for potential disruptions. You notice weather differently, because rain can mean accidents, traffic, and extra fuel. You notice your mileage differently, because every unplanned trip feels like it's eating something. You also start making decisions that look unrelated. You keep a job you've outgrown because you need the certainty of the current paycheck. You avoid taking a class because the timing feels too tight. You hesitate before visiting someone you miss because the trip has a cost beyond money. It has a cost in stress. And this is where the reframe becomes humane. The goal is not to feel guilty about owning a car. The goal is to understand that what you're buying is not just transportation. You're buying a certain shape of month. A car can give you freedom in one direction and take it in another. It can expand your radius while shrinking your margin. That shrinking margin is what people describe as, I should be doing fine, but I don't feel fine. Because money stress isn't only about how much you spend. It's about how many things you can't postpone. Optionality is the ability to say, not this month, without consequences. When you have optionality, you can handle surprise with less drama. You can wait for a better deal. You can choose the less convenient option if it protects your future. When you don't have optionality, everything is urgent. And urgency is expensive. It makes you accept the first repair shop that has an opening. It makes you renew insurance without questioning the increase. It makes you finance the next car because you couldn't save the buffer you wanted. This is how a payment becomes a loop. Not because people are reckless, because high fixed commitments create fatigue. Fatigue makes you choose the path of least resistance, even when you can see the long-term cost. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, but what am I supposed to do? Notice that your brain is already trying to turn insight into a to-do list. You don't need a to-do list right now. You need a clearer lens, a calmer way to evaluate what a car is really asking of you. Instead of asking, can I afford this payment? Try holding a different question in your mind. If my next 3 months are slightly harder than expected, does this car make my life steadier, or does it make it more fragile? You can also ask, if I had to spend one unexpected $500 on the car, would that be inconvenient? Or would it force me to steal from something important? And if I stopped driving this car tomorrow, what costs would actually disappear and what costs would stay? Those questions don't tell you what to do. They tell you what's real. They pull the car out of the category of identity and put it back into the category of logistics. And once it's logistics, you can think about it without shame. You can acknowledge trade-offs without performing confidence, because that's what this is. Not a debate about whether cars are good or bad. Just a recognition that the payment is the easiest part to see And the hardest part to feel is everything the payment commits you to. If you own a car today and it's already in your life, you don't have to feel trapped by that idea. You can still use it. You can still appreciate what it gives you. You can also name what it costs more completely, so it stops feeling like a vague pressure you can't explain. And if you're thinking about buying your next car, you don't have to become pessimistic. You just get to be precise. Not, can I make the payment? But what kind of month am I building? That question tends to create a calmer kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be defended later.